Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to tell you why the projections for the much discussed Social Security insolvency date may be wrong. Benefits could come sooner than expected, or they may not even come at all. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Devin Carroll, and on this channel, I break down Social Security and make it easy to understand. If you want to use these rules to your advantage, this channel is for you. So be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell so you won't miss anything that I publish. And hey, if you get some value from what we're saying here today, be sure to hit that like button as well. So we've all heard that in the year 2034, Social Security benefits will be cut unless reforms are made. Now, I've spent a lot of time on this channel covering these reforms. We've talked about the Social Security 2100 Act, the Bernie Sanders plan, the plan to increase full retirement age, and there's some other things that we've covered as well. All of these plans are based on the premise that the Social Security Trust Fund is running out of money. And when it does, the incoming payroll taxes will only be enough to cover about 75% of the amount needed to fulfill expected benefit payments. Now, if the trust fund runs out of money and no reforms are made, benefits will be cut because the law prohibits the Social Security Administration from borrowing money to make benefit payments. But how do we know when this will happen? The talked about date is 2034, but where did that forecast come from, and is it possible that they're wrong? Well, if you pull out your 2018 Social Security Trustees report, all 270 pages of it, you'll see that they make a series of assumptions that lead them to this projected date. Broadly speaking, they fit into three categories: demographic assumptions, economic assumptions, and program-specific assumptions. Now, there are a lot of different assumptions under each of these categories, but really there are only a few that are contributory to the longevity of the Social Security Trust Fund. Within each of these narrowed down assumptions, they look at three scenarios. They have a high cost scenario, and that is if the specific category doesn't contribute as much as expected to the trust fund, or if it takes more from the trust fund than expected. Then they have the low cost scenario, where the category actually adds to the trust fund, or if it's not as big of a drain on the trust fund as expected. So then what they'll typically use is what they refer to as the intermediate assumption, which is a combination of both of those. So for example, the first demographic assumption is on fertility rates. Now, I've done a video on this topic, which I'll link in the description below. So if fertility rates increase, there will be more individuals to pay into the Social Security Trust Fund. So an increased child per woman rate would move the needle towards the low cost side. If women start having fewer babies though, it would start to move the needle further towards the high cost side because there would be fewer taxes coming in. So let's take just a minute and look at the other subcategories that contribute the most here. Still under the demographic category, we have mortality rates. So if people live longer, checks have to be paid out longer, thus moving this towards the higher cost. If life expectancies go down, it would move towards the lower cost because fewer benefits have to be paid out. And then there's immigration. So if the rate of immigration increases, there will be more workers paying payroll taxes and move the needle towards the low-cost scenario. If the immigration rate decreases, there will be less taxes paid in and moving it towards the high cost. One of the most important categories is the economic assumptions. Now, I'm not going to take time to go through all of these, but I do want to highlight two of these. The first is inflation. There's a number of ways that inflation could affect the economy and then the Social Security Trust Fund, but the most direct impact to Social Security is through the cost of living adjustments. The Social Security cost of living adjustment is based on the CPIW, which is tied directly to inflation. And if inflation increases, the cost of living on the benefits will be more than anticipated, driving the cost up. If inflation is lower than expected, more money can stay in the trust fund, thus a low-cost scenario. The next is unemployment rates. Obviously, if fewer people are employed, there are a number of impacts, but one that is immediately clear is less revenue coming into the trust fund in the form of payroll taxes. If more people are working, there will be more revenue in payroll taxes. So this is one that I think we could hear more about in the near short term. Let me tell you why. If you look in the trustees report, you'll see that they have the high cost estimate at 6.5% unemployment rate. The intermediate cost is at 5.5%, and the low cost is at 4.5%. But when you look at the actual numbers, we are at 4% unemployment right now, and we have been there or below for over a year. Now, the trustees want an average, so 1 year isn't enough for them to change their assumptions, but if it continues to stay low, it will bode well for the trust fund's longevity. Now, under the program-specific assumptions, there are a whole slew of subcategories, but really only one that has a lot of impact, and that's the incidence of disability awards. Because a disability benefit is equal to a full retirement age benefit, and it's usually paid out a lot longer than a retirement benefit, the cost will increase substantially if disability awards increase. Now, the trustees are actually predicting that disability benefit awards will increase by around 20% over the next few years. But if it's more than that, the cost will be higher, and the inverse will be true if it's lower than projected. Now, if any of these swing in the low-cost direction, it will lengthen the life of the trust fund, but if several swing in the low-cost direction, it's possible that it could make the trust fund last forever. Now, here's the thing, that's not likely, and I'm not endorsing not making a plan for the worst. I still think reform is going to be needed. But the point I'm trying to make here is that nothing is certain, and right now no one really knows when the trust fund will be empty. Hey, before we go, remember this is your retirement. Continue to learn, continue to stay informed, continue to do your research. You've already made the right moves watching a video like this one, but don't take this as specific advice for your own situation. Keep on doing your own work and stay curious. Talk to your own advisors if you have them, but most importantly, stay curious and continue to educate yourself. You can further your learning by subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. You can click this right here, or you can watch this video coming up on this side of the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and one last thing, if you haven't bought my book yet, shameless plug for that, Social Security Basics, find it on Amazon. Thanks for watching, have a great day.